The voice of Husker Nation is on the air. This is Hail Varsity Radio. Insight, opinion, expertise, along with the biggest names talking Nebraska sports. Join in with the show at 402-489-1240 or 1-800-825-5865. Now, here are your hosts, Chris Schmidt and Elijah Herbel.
With Hail Varsity Radio, we're on the road at Rosie's downtown, 10th and P, where you gotta be, as there are so many happy teachers down here. As I look around, school is out. Alice Cooper serenaded just a little bit ago, as it is summertime for all those awesome educators. Thank you, teachers, for all you've done. Thank you, teachers, for putting up with Junior and his sick little buddies all semesters long. And we're down here getting you ready for Nebraska baseball tonight against Maryland. So many great spots to catch the baseball game if you're not headed up to Charles Schwab Field. And we'll preview Nebraska and Maryland tonight. Our friend Evan Bland will join us from the Omaha World Herald in hour 2. Brandon Vogel with us in about 15 minutes to talk some Big Red football. And then Gary Barnett will give us the latest on trying to keep the red out, if that's even possible, from Boulder. Numbers to get in, 489-1240, 489-1240. And can also join us via the stream, Hail Varsity YouTube channel, and Hail Varsity Twitter feed, Hail Varsity Radio Twitter feed at HVarsity Radio. Can also find us on KFOR Facebook and Twitter. Email Chris at hailvarsity.com. I can't tell you how awesome the energy is down here. There's joy. There's excitement. There's excitement for maybe what Nebraska baseball can do tonight to get to the semis and have a day off tomorrow. There's excitement because, well, it's summertime for so many teachers. Elijah, how you doing, man?
Excitement's how I'm feeling, Schmitty. I tell you what, I'm not down there, but I'm still juiced up because what that Husker baseball team showed us yesterday, that even when the cards were stacked against them, momentum was taken away from them. They're able to battle back, get a win, a huge first win, and now you have a huge matchup against Maryland. But also, we're just a hop, skip, and a jump away from a 3-day weekend, Schmitty. So what's not to love about that?
No, it's pretty good. You and I are working Saturday, but, you know.
The Saturday morning show doesn't feel like work. That feels like fun.
Look at you. Look at you. Big old puckering. I love it. I love it. No, hey, that's it. Nebraska was 2-22 when it comes to come from behind victories when they're down and in later innings. And not only did Nebraska come back from a 6-3 deficit, but they tacked on a touchdown and the missed extra point. Then they hung on. Some positives from yesterday. Obviously the win, yes, but Will Walsh kind of came in and stabilized a bit when the bullpen wasn't great. You had starting pitching by your ace that he went 4 and 2/3. And that was problematic because, you know what, you've probably been taxed, in all honesty, a little bit. But guess what? You get through today, and it can be okay for Nebraska. They can rest up. Emmett Olson didn't pitch bad, but he ended up getting tired at about that 60 to 65 pitch mark. He had to go to the bullpen. It didn't work. What did work for Nebraska baseball, though, was the long ball. Couple of 3-run shots, and also Rutgers pitching was atrocious between 4 hit batters, 9 walks. Nebraska left 11 runners on, but they got the power surge when they needed it. So the question is this: what do you need tonight run-wise against a Maryland team? Maryland's offense vastly different. Watch me absolutely give the kiss of death here. But Maryland's offense vastly different away from their short porches in College Park. Now, they are going to go with Nick Dean, their ace on the hill. Maryland got by with not throwing their ace against Michigan State and held on to win a 3-2 ball game on the heels of about 5 double play balls. But Nebraska 1-2 against Maryland. Don't kid yourself, man. You get a 20 spot put on you, which is what happened to Nebraska in that final game in College Park a few weeks back. You remember it. So it's, to me, going to be a high-run ball game. It's going to be a tribute to games of yesteryear at Rosenblatt where you're winning 21-15. I don't think it's going to be that high, but I think Nebraska's offense is feeling pretty good. They've performed very well. I don't know what you're going to get from Nebraska bullpen-wise, and Kaminska's on the hill. He allowed 7, but did enough, along with the Nebraska bullpen, to at least salvage one of those games, Elijah, with the series. You went 1-2, but at least you got a win, and Kaminska was on the hill for that. So Nebraska needing to put themselves in great position. Maryland's been the top seed the last 2 years. They went 0-2 last year. They're a game away from the semis. They're probably into the NCAA tournament. They're not going to be a host site. They're probably a 2 seed right now. You get bounced. Maryland probably stays at a 2 seed in a tougher regional, or maybe they keep on trucking. Nebraska fans not hoping for that. So command issues are also something to look forward to if you're Nebraska in the batter's box. Maryland's had struggles with their bullpen. Their bullpen very susceptible in recent weeks. We'll see if Nebraska and the offense can stay hot and capitalize.
And I think the key for Nebraska tonight is going to be, as you said, eating into that Maryland bullpen earlier rather than later. If this is a 1-0 or a 2-1 game going into the 7th inning, and both
that'd be weird.
Pitching, it'd be weird. Yes, it'd be very weird, but it's advantage Maryland at that point because they have offensive firepower. I know you talked about the fact that, oh yeah, they got short porches at Maryland's baseball field. They still have an explosive offense. I worry if this becomes a bullpen battle. Maryland's bullpen isn't great, but neither is Nebraska's. Nebraska needs to get a strong starting pitching performance from Kaminska, and you need to at least get the starter out of the game from Maryland before the 7th inning. Before the 6th would even be preferable in my mind. Try to eat up some of their arms, try to get a lead, and then it's going to be hanging on at the end. That's what this Husker baseball team needs to do. If they get down early, it's warning bells for this Husker baseball team, because that Maryland offense, what we've seen from them this year, is they don't take their foot off the gas pedal very often. That Maryland team is going to score runs. Maybe we're going to be talking tomorrow about a thrilling 3-1 win. Maybe. I could be wrong. I don't think so. I think we're going to see a lot of runs tonight. I think the Husker offense is going to have to step up, and you got to get that Maryland starter out of the game sooner rather than later.
You need 8. I don't know that it'll be enough, but that's the number I'm setting for Nebraska. They scored, I think it was 12 in their win in College Park, but you had to go double digits here to get the win. I think it was 12-7 was the win in that second game of the series. 489-1240, 489-1240. You're invited down here to Rosie's downtown as we are celebrating the last day of school, and get bellied up for a little bit of a watch party later on, 6 o'clock, Nebraska, Maryland. As I'm watching Iowa and Indiana right now, it doesn't look like the showers that moved through the Lincoln area have found Omaha. I don't have my Doppler radar up yet, but the wind is blowing in at Charles Schwab Field. And you know this, we talked about the Big Red Army, Husker faithful, Husker Nation, making their way out to Boulder. Doesn't matter the price. Husker baseball is finding their way to Charles Schwab Field. They did yesterday, but more and more seats have been snapped up by Nebraska fans here for tonight's game, to the point where the outfield even may be opened up for more fans to come check out Nebraska tonight at 6 o'clock. Let's hear Will Bolt last night post game. We talk about the energy down here at Rosie's with a bunch of happy teachers celebrating the last day of school. Will Bolt knew that he got a jolt of energy from the Nebraska fan base yesterday as they showed out and were rowdy enough to help spur Nebraska on to a win in dramatic fashion or at least outlasting fashion against Rutgers?
First of all, what more can you say about our fans? I mean, the Husker fans that showed up in big numbers. We got a game. It's hot. It's 85 degrees out here, and middle of the day at 2:00. And what just a jolt of energy for our players. They were rowdy from the get-go, and I'm glad we gave them something to cheer about there in the first inning. That was obviously a huge swing right there, but they helped provide a lot of energy. But I'm proud of our guys for just staying in the fight, really, because that game was pretty topsy-turvy, ups and downs there from both sides of it. And we had some guys that have been really good for us that weren't great today, but we had some guys pick them up as well. And that's what you got to have to win a tournament like that. You've got to have some guys step up.
Well, Will Walsh, tip of the cap to you. He has been hot and cold, but Walsh able to go 1 2/3, allowed just 1 hit. Kyle Perry had a tough outing. Shanaman, not a great outing, but Hawkins came in, allowed just 1 run. And Olsen, he maybe wished he could have gone another inning or so. That's not how it went. Can Nebraska get a strong start from Kaminska? Hail Varsity here at Rosie's. So, Elijah, we'll get into this with Brandon Vogel in a little bit, but SP Plus is out from Bill Conley. He went through everything post-spring. And where does Nebraska and some of their schedule mates rank in the SP Plus? We'll dive into that a little bit. Some really great stuff coming out in the Hail Varsity yearbook. We talked to Eric Francis yesterday. We'll talk to Brady Oltmans tomorrow and Jacob Padilla tomorrow. Just phenomenal work and an incredible setup here for your 2023 Nebraska football season preview with Hail Varsity, hailvarsity.com/offer. We also have story time on the way from one Will Compton. And this is glorious. And it involves Richie Incognito. So let me ask you this, Elijah. Frightened or no of Richie Incognito when you were growing up as a Nebraska fan?
Well, frightened now. The thing is growing up as a Husker fan, I didn't hear all that much about Richie Incognito. I knew of him being former Husker, a little bit of a disgraced Husker, mean guy in the NFL. We don't talk about him all that much. He's kind of the villain of yesteryear of Husker football. And there's more family-friendly Huskers that we'll talk about first. But lo and behold, the guy spends 15 years in the NFL, and I don't think we talk about him enough, actually. But yeah, I'm terrified of Richie Incognito. If I ran into him anywhere, what am I going to do against that guy?
Richie had been dismissed from the Nebraska team in 2004 under Callahan. Mm-hmm. And I ran into Richie outside on O Street. And I was I don't think I was in college. I was out of college somehow by then. But I ran into him, and a guy that was really close with Richie is our dear friend Garth Glissman. So ran into Richie, and it's like, hey, Richie, what are you doing? Are you going to go to the NFL, or where are you looking to go play? And he had told me Oregon, but that didn't ever materialize. And then he, lo and behold, declared for the draft. And oh, by the way, despite some red flags, was still a 3rd-round pick. Fast forward to now, 15 years and a guy that just retired last season, but I still claim him. I know he had some ill intentions at Happy Valley about the 3rd quarter or the end of the first half, I should say, where there may or may not have been a Ultimate Fighting Championship style chokeout to a Penn State player. He had enough. The game was a blowout in 2002. I look at him in the locker room incident with him and Grant Mulkey, where that ended his stay in Lincoln. Then I know how just vicious he was on the field and to some teammates in Miami. So I know all of that story, but I've never really had in limited interactions and a couple of interviews when he was in college. It's always been all good to me. So I still claim Richie Incognito as a Husker. I know there's a lot of Nebraska fans that don't really bring him up, but we'll hear story time from Will Compton on Richie Incognito.
And the story time will kind of get into why Richie isn't claimed, but I think now as time goes on and people have seen Richie Incognito's career as a whole, you could admit that he is a crazy individual. No offense to Richie Incognito. That's what he needs. That's a part of his game. His game is being crazy. And you know what? You're going to fear me on that football field. That's a part of his game. It's a part of the mental game of playing Richie Incognito. And simply put, you need a little bit of crazy if you're going to play the sport of football. You're going out there and you're in a car crash every single time you step between those white lines. Like you're putting your body in severe risk of major medical issues by stepping foot on that field. So you need a little bit of crazy in you to be a football player. Richie Incognito a lot of times would not only toe that line, he would step directly over that line, but that's what made Richie. And I think as time goes on, I don't know, time heals all wounds. And I think Husker fans might come around on Richie Incognito just a little bit more, especially with where the program's been at. It's lacked some nasty, it's lacked some crazy to it. And that's what you need. You need like one of those guys in your locker room to be that mean, nasty guy that, yeah, it's a team full of football players, but whenever Richie snaps, everybody still runs. Like you need that guy that even the rest of these mean, nasty football players are scared of. And that's who Richie Incognito is.
The great Tony Davis told me this one time. He's like, you need one of those guys on your team that you got to lock in a cage and you let him out on Saturdays.
Yep.
So sound advice from a Husker great. We'll invite you down to Rosie's. We're here 4 to 6, Hail Varsity Roadshow, downtown Rosie's, 10th and P, great food and drink specials. Celebrate school being out. Brandon Vogel's with us here shortly on Hail Varsity.
Hail Varsity is a must-have for true Husker fans. Get a monthly magazine that'll make checking the mail fun again. Daily analysis and breaking news, including the inside scoop on recruiting on HailVarsity.com. And every June, you'll get the Nebraska Football Yearbook, a season preview completely dedicated to Nebraska football that's as comprehensive as national previews. Use that promo code AR for monthly subscriptions, that yearly promo code DB at HailVarsity.com. Hail Varsity Club in La Vista is the perfect place to go for lunch every day. Dine in at the club and get our express lunch special for just $10. It's the all-beef Hail Varsity burger, fries, and a fountain drink delivered to your table in under 15 minutes. Hail Varsity Club in La Vista for lunch every day. And the perfect spot to watch all the big games. Reserve your table today and check out the events we've got coming up at HailVarsityClub.com. In La Vista, right next to Cabela's. Hail Varsity Club.
I always wanted to learn Spanish, but I never thought I'd have the time. Then I discovered Babbel.
Babbel's lessons are fun. They only take like 10 or 15 minutes, and in 3 weeks, presto, you're starting to speak another language. Like magic.
I love that Babbel's lessons aren't just robots talking. They're voiced by native speakers, so you get the pronunciation just right. And they're designed by real language teachers, so you learn how to have real-world conversations, things you'll actually use.
It's incredible. After using Babbel, I'm ready to start having real conversations in French.
There's all kinds of ways to learn. Use Babbel's podcasts or games or videos. You can even join live classes with a language teacher.
If you want to learn a language, there's no faster, easier, better way than
Babbel.
Babbel.
Babbel. Babbel. Évidemment. Go to Babbel.com to try for free. That's Babbel.com. Babbel.com.
Ad paid for by the Sentinel Group. Attention veterans, active duty military, civilians, and contractors. If you were issued earplugs between 1999 and 2015 and were diagnosed with hearing loss or ringing in the ears, you may be entitled to compensation. The manufacturer of these military earplugs recently paid $9.1 million to resolve claims that their earplugs were defective, potentially exposing service members to damaging sound levels that could have resulted in hearing loss or tinnitus. If you or a loved one were issued earplugs and were diagnosed with tinnitus or hearing loss, don't wait. You fought for this country, and our attorneys want to fight for you. Call 800-720-4587 now for a free legal consultation and to see if you may be.
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Back with you, it's Hail Varsity Radio. We're here at Rosie's downtown, 10th and P, the last day of school celebration. There are so many smiling teachers, or those that know teachers, and there may be several hundred pitchers that have been poured already. Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbel, great to have you in here at Rosie's Hail Varsity. The yearbook is on its way. It publishes, and you need to be a Hail Varsity subscriber by May 31st to get it as part of your subscription. HailVarsity.com/offer is where you go. Get the print, get the digital. You'll love it. Brandon Vogel, you can't see his fingers because they're taped up right now. Even if you're watching on the Hail Varsity YouTube channel, they are bloody from hammering out all those team previews. Vogues, how we doing? Take a deep breath, my friend. It is almost summertime. It is yearbook time, and you guys are about ready to plant the flag for another incredible issue. How you doing?
Doing pretty well. Those yearbook previews that you mentioned, all of the Big Ten teams, the 3 non-conference opponents that Nebraska faces, I really start compiling stuff for that in January, and it's now finally done. Assuming that nobody gets a massive transfer, we'll go back in and add that. We've got a little bit of time, so that helps. But we're in the stretch run for getting that ready to go to the printer and get into people's hands eventually. And it's been it's always a lot of work, but I'm seeing the light. I'm starting to get excited because there's a lot of good stuff in there. I'm excited for people to see it.
Vogue's SP Plus out from Bill Conley, and it's kind of a post-spring rundown of things. And Bill looks at returning production, recent recruiting, your recent history. And I kind of look at the recent recruiting aspect of that, and I think you can feel pretty good about it for Nebraska and Matt Rule, just because we saw so many young guys contribute in the spring game on top of Nebraska's success in the portal. Bill even mentioned Nebraska and what they did in the portal with grabbing some Georgia guys, so that got on his radar. The recent history is what I'm up in the air on, because the last few years are what they are, and it's super hard to predict year one. It was hard to predict year one for Lincoln Riley, even though 10 wins was kind of what we all thought. But it's hard to predict the year one for Wisconsin. It's hard to predict the year one for Coach Prime. And it's probably hard to predict the coach a year one for Coach Rule. And that's we've got time before media days to throw our dart at the board. But that's the biggest thing. I'm still wait and see, but I feel like I'm leaning more towards, Nebraska could have a better year than past seasons. As you compiled info, are you looking at Nebraska as kind of a sneaky okay team, or are you still just like palms up, man? Let's see what Minnesota looks like on the 31st.
Yeah. Well, to start, I was not with Lincoln Riley at USC. I enthusiastically took the under on 9.5 wins last year. So maybe I was alone, but I was like, 10 wins, that's a lot, even though I looked at their schedule and I was like, this is a pretty good schedule. So missed on that one. So take that into account with anything I'm about to say. Like, I think Nebraska's in a good spot. The nice thing about an SP Plus is it uses its own rankings to feed into the future rankings. And in all of those rankings, almost, Nebraska was better than its end of year record would have led you to believe. And that, it gets tiresome. You don't want to always be the team that's like, yeah, we went 4-8, but we were the 60th best team in the country. But when it comes to this thing, preseason rankings this far in advance, it helps you a little bit. And I think in this latest update, because I pay very close attention to these power ratings, or at least some of them that I have come to trust over the years. Basically, what happened with this latest update, pre-spring to post-spring, is Nebraska and Purdue flip-flopped. And I'm guessing, based on what I know of how those things are tabulated, that's the difference of losing Casey Thompson. And it's not that Jeff Sims doesn't get factored in here. He does. But you factor in transfers differently than you would factoring in, hey, we just lost the leading passer, basically the starting quarterback from last year's team. I'm guessing that's about it in terms of what changed for Nebraska. And I did, enjoy seeing Nebraska get mentioned in the transfer portal thing. I mean, another thing that story talks about is like the Colorado problem. Like, what do you do with a team like that? They're almost impossible to project, and kind of a one-off in that regard. So overall, like, Nebraska, I think, has earned their spot as a team. We start out at maybe 6-6, and we'll see what happens there. But I think there's more room on the upside for me of being better than 6 wins than there is on the downside.
Brandon Vogel is with us here on Hail Varsity Radio. And Brandon, one of the things we talked about last segment, and one thing that these metrics don't take into account with their preseason predictions, if you will, is the importance of a mean and nasty guy on your team. We're talking about Richie Incognito last segment, and just how much he can change a team having him on the offensive line, that fear he puts into a defense. And I'm not saying that can flip a season for Nebraska football from 3 wins to 10 wins, one guy like that. But having a guy like that on your football team is very important. And I just want to get your take on if Nebraska has any potential candidates of being that guy, that, especially in the Big Ten, can strike some fear into the guys on the other side of the ball.
Yeah, I don't know that there's a ton of natural options that come to mind. Richie was so unique, I think, in how he played the game and how he approached it. But there's toughness, I think, on this Nebraska football team. I look at somebody like MJ Sherman, a Georgia transfer, a guy who has seen the best that college football has been the past 2 seasons. And you look into like his high school career, where he comes from, all of that stuff is somebody who can fit the toughness mold. Luke Reimer is somebody who fits the toughness mold. It may not be as in your face as some other people, but he definitely does. Miles Farmer is another one that comes immediately to mind. For the Hail Varsity Yearbook, we had the opportunity to do, an individual interview with Matt Rule. And he talks a lot about like where you're trying to get to is a point where you compete with yourselves. And it really struck a chord with me because I look at the last 5 years with Nebraska football and how it just kind of played out. A lot of times, like, they were behind early. They're trying to play catch up. And at that point, you're not competing with yourself. You're competing with the scoreboard. It's to boil it all down, do you want to be good at this for the sake of being good at it? And if you do, like, the results should follow. So when I think about toughness, I kind of think about it in that light.
Vogue's going to shift over to Husker Baseball right now, and I'm looking at some black and gold at Charles Schwab Field. I know the Big Red Army have handed their credit cards over to the Colorado Athletic Department to Phil Folsom on September 9th. That was a fun exercise yesterday. And now they're shifting gears to snatch up other seats at Charles Schwab. The fan base is incredible. They're relentless. They're real when it comes to energy and helping either football, volleyball, basketball, in this case, baseball, will towards some extra oomph. Could be big tonight against Maryland.
Absolutely could. This baseball season's been tough, I think, to kind of grab a hold of like knowing like what this team's going to be on a game in and game out basis. But you've got a couple of things at play here. It's a Thursday night, but you're playing at 6 p.m. That helps. If somebody is like, I'm getting off work, let's go watch some Nebraska baseball, you can do that. Tougher to do that at 2 p.m. on a Wednesday. And, I heard Elijah talking about it earlier. I very much agree with him. Like, if you can get into this Terps bullpen, you're going to give yourself a shot. So can you be aggressive early and try and get there and take your chance? Because, like, if we think tonight is going to be significantly different from a fan support, from a quote unquote home field advantage perspective, like, wait and see if Nebraska wins and all of a sudden is playing to get into the championship game tomorrow night. Well, I guess it's tomorrow afternoon, actually. But like, things are only going to build here. Nebraska has a real chance to make the setting of this tournament now its advantage, which I don't think you saw in game one necessarily.
Brandon Vogel's with us at Hail Varsity Radio. We're down here at Rosie's 10th and P, and it is the last day of school. There may be some chugging contests going on. Some folks are celebrating that there's no more fourth grade class to mess with or junior high to deal with. God bless you. Teachers in the state of Nebraska, teachers everywhere, we love you. And it is a needed exercise, says the former para for about 4.5 years, the last day of school. Vogues, real quick as we wrap here with the yearbook, you mentioned that Aaron and Brady got to sit down with Coach Rule. Drake had a nice sit down with Gabe Irvin. You yourself are doing the preview and the rundown of all things Nebraska and opponents. And Babbers and Quentin are also checking out and celebrating year 100. You've been doing the yearbook forever. And this is another instance in a special issue that will preview 2023. But year 100 sounds pretty important.
Yeah, it absolutely is. And, in terms of Mike Babcock, with the amount of Husker football he has just seen personally since his time covering the team, like, I can't think of a better person to write on that topic. And Jacob Padilla has a really good story in there, looking at something I think is important with position changes we saw this spring and kind of how that ties into Matt Rule's history as a coach with him and his staff. So a lot of good stuff in there. We put our everything into every issue that we put out, but the yearbook is always like, okay, let's try and do a little extra. And I'm really excited about how this is coming together. So I look forward to people seeing it. I look forward to talking to people about it, because we really do put everything that I think we can put into this yearbook.
Brandon Vogel with us here on Hail Varsity. The yearbook can be yours. That deadline, May 31st, to get your subscription. HailVarsity.com/offer. Get your subscription, the yearbook, the issues all year, the digital. Vogues, thank you so much for spending time today.
Thanks a lot, guys. Have a good night.
Stay connected and stay safe. From the Boom Boom Pow with the experienced weather team at KFOR.
Good afternoon from the 1011 newsroom. I'm Cole Miller. Coming up, we're heading to Omaha as the Huskers gear up for Game 2 in the Big Ten baseball tourney. Plus, citing a bill and striking items from the state's budget. The latest on the governor's push to stand up more mental health facilities and what he vetoed from that budget. And it's the last day of school at LPS. These stories and more tonight.
Listen to this station anytime, anywhere on Odyssey. Odyssey is your new audio home for all the music, news, sports, and podcasts that matter to you. Odyssey. That's AUDACY.
This is KFOR's Kathy Blythe inviting you to join Legacy's John Kopetsky and me Saturday mornings for the Aging Adventure, brought to you by Legacy Retirement Communities. Lifestyle and health topics plus fascinating people. The Aging Adventure, 8 a.m. Saturdays on KFOR.
That's the ease at which you get information. You want it, you get it. Like that. Ask your phone, group chat, smart home. You're always connected and informed in real time. No waiting. So if you're diabetic and still using finger sticks to read your blood sugar, what are you waiting for? Knowing your blood sugar levels instantly is important for managing diabetes. Call US Med at 800-730-8405 to learn more about continuous glucose monitors, a real-time instant method to track your blood glucose. US Med is an approved provider for Medicare and over 500 private insurers. And the best part? Call 800-730-8405 and we'll give you a free insurance benefits check today. So call 800-730-8405 today. That's 800-730-8405 and manage your diabetes as easy as
Nebraskans love the great outdoors. Hi, I'm Jeff.
And I'm Hershey. We bring you the inside scoop with pros from the Nebraska Game and Park.
On Outdoor Nebraska every Saturday morning at 9:45 here on KFOR 1240 AM.
And 101.5 FM.
Capital Arborist is your tree service in Lincoln with the experience and expertise to handle all your arboreal needs. More than just tree trimming, Capital Arborist is a member of the Nebraska Arborist Association. Call 402-466-0160 or capitalarborist.com for a free estimate.
Hey, this is Dan Bongino, the former NYPD police officer, Secret Service agent, and a TV host. I'll bring Nebraska an honest perspective on the day.
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Back with you, it's Hail Varsity Radio. We're live at Rosie's 10th and P downtown. Come celebrate the last day of school. If you know a teacher, give them a hug and buy them a beer and say thank you. Husker Baseball tonight at 6, allegedly, as things are getting a little dicey for Indiana. They're trying to get out of this thing with 2 on. Iowa keeps threatening. So we'll see if that 6 o'clock is a hard start. Reminder about our friends at Dyer Law. Congratulations to Dyer Law and the team as they took fight in front of a federal jury last week in Omaha. After days of testimony, the jury awarded their client $3 million in damages, which is huge. You can trust in the team at Dyer Law to help ensure that your rights are protected and you get the settlement you deserve. Call Dyer Law today at 402-393-7529 or visit dyer.law and chat with their trusted professionals about your claim. That's dyer.law, 402-393-7529. So we started talking a little bit in segment 1, previewing Nebraska baseball, and the bullpen matchup will be key, and the muscle, the offensive fireworks will be huge this evening, even though the wind is blowing in for Nebraska baseball. But Richie Incognito got on our radar because of Will Compton. Friend Will Compton and Bussin' with the Boys spent some time on a couple of different topics. So we have got some comments in the stream to get to. Scott chimes in and says, "Hey boys," I'm trying to do Scott's voice here. "Damn straight I claim, Richie, you need a guy or 10 on your team that makes the other teams soil themselves." That caged beast take from Tony Davis, absolutely. Nick weighs in. Nick says, "Back in the day, I was hanging out with my cousin after a game in Lincoln at a pizza place. Incognito barges through the front door and yells, 'Who wants some?' I'm trying to do the Joe from Family Guy voice. 'Who wants some?' People were hiding under the table." Oh, that was pretty good. More from Nick. "My buddy saw him knock a skinny little kid out at a house party too." So without further ado, it's story time with Will Compton. This has been bleeped so we can keep our jobs.
Yeah, and let's lay it out. This was Will Compton's appearance on Matt and Shane's Secret Podcast. 2 comedians, Shane Gillis and Matt McCusker. So you can go check them out.
Okay, awesome.
And Will's good friends with Shane Gillis, so he hopped on and they told some Richie Incognito stories after Shane Gillis ran into Richie Incognito at some party. And Richie Incognito hit him with a little, what'd you call it, a little boob scoop whenever they first met.
Hey, what's up? One of those?
And then he was all like, "I can't do anything. This dude is 6'8" and built like a house."
Well, it happens. It's not super common, but say you hit a home run, someone's going to slap your ass in a friendly way. Mm-hmm. It happens. You don't want it happening in gym class, but here's Will Compton in the Richie Incognito story. One of many, I'm sure.
They say there's a story at Nebraska
there was this walk-on. His name was Rigoni. Dude who was busting wedges, he ends up getting beaten up by jumped by these frat guys. So they have this team meeting, preaching like, this is a band of brothers. Like, you don't let nothing happen. So Richie Incognito gets Rigoni. They don't really know each other that well. He goes, hey, after practice, like, I'm going to take you. You're going to show me where this guy's house is. And after practice, he gets him in the pickup and they're driving down Greek Row or whatever. And he's like, point out the frat, like which one it was. And Rigoni like points it out. Oh my God. They park it. Richie goes up, knocks the door, arriving the answer. He kicks the door in and just starts beating up the frat. Starts beating up the frat, dude.
Dude, get off me, dude.
What the hell,
dude? If you were up in your room and you heard your brother screaming, I'd be the dude in Saving Private Ryan, just sitting in the stairwell, like, no way. The biggest dude on earth just broke it down.
Coach Bo was on that staff, and when he recalls that, he remembers like kind of the coaches talking about it. And then the next day, when it's like the headline or stuff's coming out about it, they're thinking like, "Oh, we shouldn't have got the boys going."
That was Will Compton on the Richie Incognito. You got the Goodfellas treatment, right? Beginning of Goodfellas. You had Henry. He was going to quit running numbers for Paulie. And they put little Henry in the car, and they took him to the mail, the mailman route, and the post office, and said, "All right, who's the guy?" So imagine Incognito grabbing Rigoni, and Riggs is as good a dude as there is. Okay, what house is it? On 16th Street. There's Riggs in the car. There's Incognito. And you point to one of the houses, presumably. And then the next thing, he busts the door down. And then that was hilarious. I don't know if that was Luan or who said it, but think about if you hear your fraternity brothers screaming, would you go help him?
And
you probably have to take a peek first. If it's Incognito, I think if it's a brother, you got to go help him, but you're not winning.
Well, I need to hear the story. If there's anybody out there listening who was in the frat house that afternoon,
no one's going to call in and admit that.
402-489-1240. Give us a tweet at Herbal Essences at Schmidt_radio. We want to hear your side of the story, because that sounds like the experience that you will never forget once in your life. Richie Incognito breaking down your front door, just seeing red.
More from Compton on Incognito. This is the coin flip between Washington and Buffalo. I don't know if it was preseason or in season, but this was pretty good.
We played against each other. Washington, Buffalo, when he was on Buffalo. Yeah, and he was like, they're like, "Oh, you guys, you guys have played against each other before, blah, blah, blah." I was like, "Richie, nice to meet you, man." He's like, "Yeah, I remember you, smaller linebacker." He's like, "You realize I'd kill you, right?" I was like, he had this like, it wasn't like a no. It wasn't
bulldog you too.
Yeah. All right, good. He goes, "You realize I'd kill you, right?" And I was like, "Yeah, but Nebraska." And then he like grabs my arm like a gladiator handshake and pulls me forward. He's like, "Loyalty, blood brothers." And I'm thinking, yeah, hell yeah. But I'm thinking in my head, what in the is going on? He's like, "You look like somebody who has a six pack," and he like lifts it up. Clearly I don't. And then he pulls up his shirt and has me like feel his stomach.
Nice.
And he's like, "Oh, I got something under there too. You just gotta feel for it."
He's jacked.
Feel my tummy. Richie was actually pretty put together. No, Richie Incognito always going to have a soft spot in my heart. Same with Kranak, just because that was our first recruiting interview ever. Was Richie Incognito, and it was Big Richie, God rest Richie's dad's soul, and Little Richie. So it was a fun conversation.
And I want to know if you want to check out the full podcast. It's Matt and Shane's Secret Podcast, very R-rated. So check yourself before you check it out. But it's a funny one, funny episode.
We'll wind down hour one next here at Rosie's 10th and P.
I'm Howard Mackler, founder of Innovation Refunds. You've heard me talking about the payroll tax refund for months. If you own a business, even if you've asked your CPA about this, you owe it to yourself to take another look. We provide a licensed and insured tax attorney who evaluates your company at my expense to determine eligibility. Businesses of all types can qualify, so go to getrefunds.com to potentially get a payroll tax refund of up to $26,000 per employee. Download the Innovation Refunds app or go to getrefunds.com, getrefunds.com.
So how are things?
Oh, great. Katie just bought herself a new bike with her own money.
What? My kids spend all their money on video games. How'd you get Katie to save?
Just a little education. Did you know China prioritizes teaching financial literacy starting in preschool?
That's so smart. American kids don't seem to hear a word about it in their classrooms, and I really can't teach it at home. They're being left behind.
Actually, we can help at home, thanks to the Sensibles.
The Sensibles?
Mm-hmm. They're a team of animated superheroes who help kids ages 6 to 12 to develop smart money habits in a fun way. Katie gets a Sensibles kit in the mail with a great DVD, a comic book, and other fun activities each month. She also gets access to an interactive website with a library of lessons, other fun activities, and lots more.
Oh, that's perfect. I'm signing my kids up today.
Visit BeSensibleSmart.com today and enter promo code SENT for 20% off. Digital subscriptions also available. Subscribe at BeSensibleSmart.com. That's CENT. It's the sensible thing to do.
I'm Howard Mackler, founder of Innovation Refunds. You've heard me talking about the payroll tax refund for months. If you own a business, even if you've asked your CPA about this, you owe it to yourself to take another look. We provide a licensed and insured tax attorney who evaluates your company at my expense to determine eligibility. Businesses of all types can qualify, so go to getrefunds.com to potentially get a payroll tax refund of up to $26,000 per employee. Download the Innovation Refunds app or go to getrefunds.com, getrefunds.com.
Hey, doctor, not a real customer. Quote based on a healthy, non-smoking 44-year-old male with a 20-year term policy. Rates may vary.
Welcome to Ethos, a new kind of insurance company that believes life insurance should be hassle-free, affordable, and accessible for everyone.
For around $1 a day, I got a 20-year, $250,000 term life insurance policy without a medical exam. All I had to do was answer a few health questions and snap, family protected. It was quick and easy. Ethos is 100% online. I got a quote in seconds, applied in minutes, and got coverage in hours. Just answer a few health questions. No medical exam, no blood tests, no hassle. Look, nobody wants to plan for the unthinkable, but it would be so much worse to not plan at all. So don't put it off. It feels great having the peace of mind knowing that my family is protected.
Ethos, the 100% online hassle-free way to get affordable life insurance.
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Thanks for hanging out. Hour one winding down. We're here at Rosie's downtown in Lincoln. 10th and P, you're invited out. Crack one and celebrate the last day of school. Thank you, teachers. As in hour two, Evan Bland going to join us from Charles Schwab. Iowa's plated 2 more runs. They are now in front 5-4 over Indiana, only in the 7th. Husker Baseball slated to get going at 6. Don't know that happens. But watch party right here at Rosie's for Big Red Baseball against Maryland tonight. Reminder to get buckled up. Use your seatbelt. It saves lives. Prevents injuries only if properly worn. Buckle up, a message from the Nebraska Department of Highway Safety Office. Nick with some symmetry here of Ogre and Revenge of the Nerds, what Ogre used to do to people. Great movie pull, Nick, on that. So how far does Will go deep with his time at Nebraska here with this podcast?
Oh, pretty deep. He gets some good locker room stories. They get into a whole bunch of stuff, and that's why I said probably R-rated. Listen with care. They get into a little bit of everything. But yeah, they get into some stories from the locker room / showers at Nebraska that had me crying laughing last night that I won't bring up here, but they had me crying laughing on that podcast.
Gotcha.
It's a good episode.
Todd emails in, I call complete horse bleep on the validity of these stories. But I love having a player with some attitude. It makes up for lack of talent. Well, Richie was as talented as you get, probably a top 15 pick, but ended up going third round. And I don't honestly doubt the stories.
Well, it's a case of, what happens with a story as years go on and little details.
Oh, the legend grows, baby.
Legend grows. And Will was a guy that came to Nebraska. I think he would have been a freshman Rigoni's senior year, or maybe
2008 is when Will was recruited by Callahan and then kept on by Bo and his staff, able to keep him. But I think Riggs might have been 07.
So, you're correct. You're correct. So this is like a story that's been passed down of one of the guys that just graduated, and now Coach Bo's here, and he was here for the story as well. So you got to assume little details are added, but I don't doubt the heart of the story that, like, he was driving up and down frat row with Rigoni, being like, I pointed out, and then he went and beat up some frat guys. I'm sure little details have been added, maybe kicking down the door was added, but I've heard allusions to that story enough that I believe there's probably a lot of truth to it.
We need the true Hollywood story.
That's what I'm saying. If you were in the frat house at the time, give us a call. We need the true story. We need your side of the story. This is one-sided right now.
We are not. Good luck and God bless about getting that.
Well, we'll do the voice changer. We'll keep you anonymous. We'll do whatever it takes to get you
It's
on.
gonna be like one of the mafia sit-downs. Sure, why not? We'll check in with Evan Bland. He is in Omaha, and get his thoughts on Nebraska-Maryland. How can things go the right way for Nebraska tonight against the number 1 seed Maryland Terps? Not impossible by any stretch, because the Huskers got it rolling just a little bit. Gary Barnett will check in Boulder with Barney, get his take on, Colorado's feeble attempt to keep the red out. Hail Varsity continues. We're presented by Currency down here at Rosie's. Come see us, 10th and P.
This is Jim Keck, minister of First Plymouth Church, inviting you to join us for a broadcast of our worship service every Sunday morning at 9 a.m. on KFOR.
Arborist is your tree service in Lincoln with the experience and expertise to handle all your arboreal needs. More than just tree trimming, Capital Arborist is a member of the Nebraska Arborist Association. Call 402-466-0160 or capitalarborist.com for a free estimate.
Hey, Husker, not a real customer. Quote based on the healthy, non-smoking 44-year-old male with a 20-year term policy. Rates may vary.
Welcome to Ethos, a new kind of insurance company that believes life insurance should be hassle-free, affordable, and accessible for everyone.
For around $1 a day, I got a 20-year, $250,000 term life insurance policy without a medical exam. All I had to do was answer a few health questions and snap, family protected. It was quick and easy. Ethos is 100% online. I got a quote in seconds, applied in minutes, and got coverage in hours. Just answer a few health questions. No medical exam, no blood tests, no hassle. Look, nobody wants to plan for the unthinkable, but it would be so much worse to not plan at all. So don't put it off. It feels great having the peace of mind knowing that my family is protected.
Ethos, the 100% online hassle-free way to get affordable life insurance. Don't wait. Get your free online quote now at ethoslife.com. That's ethoslife.com.
I'm Howard Mackler, founder of Innovation Refunds. You've heard me talking about the payroll tax refund for months. If you own a business, even if you've asked your CPA about this, you owe it to yourself to take another look. We provide a licensed and insured tax attorney who evaluates your company at my expense to determine eligibility. Businesses of all types can qualify, so go to getrefunds.com to potentially get a payroll tax refund of up to $26,000 per employee. Download the Innovation Refunds app or go to getrefunds.com.
This is your station for local news, talk, sports, and weather. FM 101.5, 1240 AM, KFOR, Lincoln.
From ABC News. I'm Daria Aldinger. Another day and still no word of any real progress in reaching an agreement to raise the debt ceiling. That's even a day after a credit agency raised the stakes for what a default could mean.
A downgrade would cause our interest rates to skyrocket here, and also it would raise the cost of issuing debt in this country. If you yourself were going out for a personal loan and the bank considered you risky, they thought, well, you may have a tough time paying off that loan, you wouldn't get a very favorable rate or favorable conditions on that loan.
ABC's Alexis Christoforos. President Biden nominating Air Force General C.Q. Brown to be the next Joint Chiefs of Staff Chairman.
He's the top general in the U.S. Air Force, and he is 60 years old, so he's been in for almost 38 years now, and he has steadily climbed up the ranks, having some of the main positions in the Air Force, ending up running the air war against ISIS.
ABC's Louis Martinez, 18 years in prison for Stuart Rhodes, the founder of the Oath Keepers, for his role in the January 6th attack on the Capitol.
Of course, I wanted less. The prosecutors wanted more. But based on Judge Mehta's belief of what the facts show and his recitation of that yesterday and today, I believe that was lower than what I thought Mehta would do.
Defense attorney Philip Linder. The White House says today's Supreme Court ruling, which limits the power of the EPA, will take the country backwards. The Pentagon says Ukrainian pilots could begin training on U.S.-made F-16 fighters in the coming weeks. Joint Chiefs of Staff Chair General Mark Milley says it's the right time to do it.
Look at the cost curve and do the analysis. The smartest thing to have done is exactly what we did do, which is provide a significant amount of integrated air defense to cover the battle space and deny the Russians the airspace. And that is exactly what happened.
The Netherlands and Denmark are leading a European coalition to provide the training. Stocks closed mixed today. You're listening to ABC News.
It's easy to think all money managers are pretty much the same, but at Fisher Investments, we're clearly different.
Different? How? You sell high commission investment products, right?
No, Fisher Investments doesn't sell any commission-based investment products.
Well, you must earn commissions on trades.
Nope, never at Fisher. We're a fiduciary, obligated to act in our client's best interest. It's the highest standard of care for a financial advisor.
How do you know what's in their best interest?
We get to know our clients and then tailor a portfolio based on their goals and needs.
But you probably sneak in some hidden and layered fees.
No, we have one transparent management fee structured so we do better when our clients do better.
Wow, you really do look out for your clients.
That's because our top priority is helping them achieve a comfortable retirement. It might be why most of our clients come from other money managers. Visit FisherInvestments.com to find out why investors like you switch to us. Fisher Investments. Clearly different money management.
Investments and securities involve the risk of loss.
Good afternoon. I'm Will Wilson, KFOR News. It's 80 degrees in Lincoln. You may have noticed some activity around Pawnee Lake earlier today. Lancaster County deputies have been searching for a man in his 20s believed to be responsible for a reported domestic assault case at a camper from Wednesday night.
We got a call of a suspicious person sleeping in one of the bathrooms, I believe. We get up there, it's him, and he's taken off again.
Chief Deputy Sheriff Ben Houchin says they are not aware of any other threats that may have been made. They're looking for a man in his 20s that apparently had a knife with him. We could get an update on this story by tomorrow morning. Gas prices in Nebraska are much better heading into this weekend compared to what they were during Memorial Day weekend a year ago. AAA's Brian Order tells KFOR News the average price of unleaded fuel is $3.38 a gallon across Nebraska, where the average price during the same time in 2022 was $4.17.
And around the Lincoln area, Lancaster County, the daily average on Thursday was $3.45 a gallon. In Saunders County, we're $3.42 a gallon. So roughly around the state average of that $3.38.
The price of crude oil is about $72 a barrel, down from $123 a barrel in 2022. A man who tried to escape out of a window of a home where a Lincoln police officer was shot and later died has pleaded no contest to escape using deadly force and unlawful transfer of a firearm to a juvenile. The Journal-Star reports 22-year-old Orion Ross made the plea on Wednesday and had 5 other felonies, including aiding and abetting first-degree murder, dismissed. Ross could face up to 24 years in prison when he is sentenced in July. He had been inside a home at 33rd and Vine back on August 26, 2020, when police were trying to get to then 17-year-old Felipe Vasquez, who was with Ross in a locked bedroom. Both broke free out of a window while Vasquez fired shots, one of which hit investigator Mario Herrera, who died from his wounds on September 7th, 2020. Vasquez was convicted and sentenced to life in prison for the murder. This afternoon, chance of thunderstorms with a high of 83. I'm Will Wilson, KFOR News.
Beef up your backyard with KFOR. Listen to Lincoln's Morning Show with Chris, Carol, and Jeff for a chance to add some sizzle to your summer. Up for grabs, a Weber Q2200 gas grill and portable cart from Capitol Patio and Flame Shop. Plus, a gift card for some mouth-watering meat from Russ's Market. We'll have 3 qualifiers each morning. Plus, you can enter online at KFORnow.com. Beef up your backyard and win with KFOR.
I'm Howard Mackler, founder of Innovation Refunds. You've heard me talking about the payroll tax refund for months. If you own a business, even if you've asked your CPA about this, you owe it to yourself to take another look. We provide a licensed and insured tax attorney who evaluates your company at my expense to determine eligibility. Businesses of all types can qualify, so go to getrefunds.com to potentially...
The voice of Husker Nation is on the air. This is Hail Varsity Radio. Insight, opinion, expertise, along with the biggest names talking Nebraska sports. Join in with the show at 402-489-1240 or 1-800-825-5865. Now, here are your hosts, Chris Schmidt and Elijah Herbel.
Back with you, Tower 2. It's Hail Varsity Radio. We're live at Rosie's downtown, 10th and P. There's a number of educators here. They are celebrating the last day of school. Thank you, teachers, for another year, giving yourselves to so many kids. We're ready for Nebraska baseball tonight. That'll follow us here down at Rosie's, 6 o'clock, allegedly. Iowa and Indiana still arm wrestling right now. As we head up to Charles Schwab, we welcome in with the Omaha World Herald. Does an awesome job covering Nebraska baseball. Evan Bland with us at Evan Bland OWH. Evan, what's the scene like, man? Thanks for a few minutes.
Hey, yeah, no problem, Chris. Well, it's a little quiet right now, a little subdued. You got the end of a pretty good game going with Iowa and Indiana, and Iowa's got a decent crowd here, but you look out into the streets, man, and it's getting red, and it's not Rutgers fans. I can tell you that. It's, you look at Ticketmaster and some of the tickets that have been sold, and there's a lot of gray sections, meaning those seats aren't available. So it'll be interesting to see. It's a gorgeous night. It's a 6 o'clock, 6:30 whenever the game gets started. Perfect baseball weather and a huge game for Nebraska. So the stage is set, and I think the crowd, as it always does for Nebraska, is going to show up and should be a lot of fun.
Evan Bland's with us here from the Omaha World Herald. It's Hail Varsity Radio. He's up in Omaha for the Big Ten tournament. And Evan, I don't want this to come off sounding bad, but do you think that Husker fans are showing up in droves because this is the closest thing Nebraska's going to experience to a College World Series, at least this year, that, you know what, they're playing up in Omaha, where the College World Series is held. It's on the big stage. We got to go watch it there. And you know what? We can watch it now because we're not going to get a chance to see it in late June. Is that kind of, do you think, a potential reason why the Husker fans?
The motive?
I mean, that's one way to look at it, I suppose. I guess I have just looked at it as like this. It's a huge game. Like if you win tonight, you don't have to play Friday, and you get 2 shots to win Saturday against Maryland or Michigan State, and then that sends you to the championship game. And who knows what happens in a one-off to continue your season to a regional. So if you lose, then you have that extra game Friday. Your pitching is all the further taxed, and you have to win 4 straight down the stretch. So it's a massive game tonight, just in terms of how things can switch around. But, it's top-seeded Maryland. Like I said, it's a perfect night for baseball if you're out just in downtown Omaha. It's a great start time for Nebraska fans. So, I mean, yeah, it's possible that they lose and their season's over here in the next couple of days, in which case, this is still the biggest game of the season for them. But there's just a ton on the line. And I think, Nebraska fans recognize that regardless of the sport. Like, you're going to show up for your team, and the fact that the conference tournament happens to be in Omaha allows a lot of people to, even have seen how the result went on Wednesday, maybe build up a little excitement, gain some walk-up traffic in terms of the crowd. So I just think it's going to be a lot of fun. And they were loud. I thought they affected the game on Wednesday, especially as Rutgers was faltering in that 7th inning. And, Maryland's been to a regional, but they, outside of a series at Ole Miss this year, they haven't played in front of a crowd that they're going to play tonight. So I'll be curious to see how much that has an effect on the game early on, too.
Evan Bland with us. He is in Omaha. He's at Charles Schwab. He is gearing up to cover Nebraska-Maryland tonight. At Evan Bland, OWH is where you follow him with the Omaha World Herald. Evan, what lessons do you think Nebraska took with them from Maryland? That series was tough. Nebraska is able to get at least one game. They had to score a ton of runs to do it. Then they got sent home with a 20 spot hung on them. So what do they take back into tonight's game from that first series?
Well, I don't think there's any mystique with Maryland, right? Like you saw them, if you're Nebraska, you've scouted them, you've beaten them the one time. It happened to be the game that Jace Kaminska started, and he's going to be the starter tonight. He did not have a great outing against them, giving up 7 and 4 innings. But, I think there's a lot to just sort of take in terms of, they're ranked, they're the number 1 seed, but there are flaws with this team too. I mean, they're in this field here in Omaha this week. They've got one of the worst ERAs. So you're talking about having to outslug opponents. That's been Maryland's recipe. And so, I think it sets up as a game that Nebraska feels like it's going to be able to hang. I mean, Kaminska, since that game at Maryland, has had 2 pretty sharp starts. The bullpen, while they used a number of their pitchers yesterday, like nobody threw really more than 30 pitches. And so you could go back to Shea or Kyle Perry or whoever if you need to in a pinch. I mean, you're going to throw everything at the wall tonight. And I think the other thing about Maryland specifically is their ballpark plays awfully cozy. So you look at some of their power numbers, they're, a top 5 national team in terms of slugging and home runs. They got, north of 100 home runs. But their ballpark, I think, inflates some of those numbers to where now you come to Charles Schwab Field and it's, 400 plus to center. And some of those balls that maybe they're used to going out don't here. And so what I'll be curious about is if those balls aren't going out, is Maryland able to score in other ways? Can they draw the walks? Can they string some hits together? I think Nebraska believes that it can, and it's found itself a little bit in the last few weeks as a team that can not only hit for power, as we've seen, but also can lay down the sacrifice bunt, steal the base, be decent situationally. So I think tonight's game has the recipe to be high scoring. I'll just be curious, and I think the team that wins is going to be the one where the offense is able to score in a variety of ways.
Evan, I'd just like to throw it out there. I umpired for the Malcolm baseball team a couple times this year. Their home ballpark, it's 315 to dead center. They were hitting a whole bunch of home runs, and I was wondering how that would translate to the state tournament in a field like Tal Anderson or any of the great ballparks that the state tournament is played at. And it turns out it was just fine. They still went in one state tournament, so we'll see if that same recipe applies for Maryland. But, Evan, in your opinion, what is the key? If you had to pick one major key tonight for this Husker baseball team to get it done, what would that one major key be? What's something Husker fans can look for, and you think if Nebraska does this, they have a great chance at winning?
Well, I mean, I said it about how they're going to win the tournament, and I just think, and maybe it's simplistic, but I think your stars have to be stars. I mean, Maryland's got multiple all Big Ten first team players, sluggers, and so does Nebraska. And I think, they were able to win. Nebraska was their opener where maybe their top stars didn't necessarily shine as much. I mean, Gabe Swanson hit a 3-run bomb and Charlie Fisher's gotten hot. But, this feels like a game where Max Anderson and Bryce Matthews can put the team on their back a little bit and just show why they're going to be high major league draft picks here in July. So I think that's where you have to start. I expect this to be a higher scoring game. I think if Kaminska can give you, 4 or 5 innings, you're probably happy with that if the game's tight. And Maryland, I think, is in a similar spot where their pitching's a little bit more rested, but again, they have not been all that effective and they've been bailed out by the offense. So, I think, again, Maryland's got guys like Nick LaRusso and Matt Shaw, who's the Big Ten Player of the Year, guys who can, create some instant offense for the Terps as well. So I just think it comes down to, are your all Big Ten first teamers going to outperform the guys on the other side? And I think they've done that a lot this season, and we'll see if they can do it tonight.
Evan, give me a little insight here. Is Bryce looking like Bryce? Is he back to regular season form, or is he still dealing with that tightness? Did you notice much yesterday? I know he was 0 for 3, but scored a run. Came up. Nebraska had opportunities. Now Rutgers helped them out with some walks and some hit batters, but Nebraska also stranded 11 themselves.
Right. Yeah, I mean, he drew a key walk there, like you mentioned, scored a run. He flew out deep, I think close to or at the warning track, and maybe it was his second at bat. So he definitely had the power. And then in the field, he looked smooth enough. I mean, he was error-free and had a couple nice throws that, made routine plays look routine. So, maybe game 2 now is that game where you take that next step forward, because again, he sat out the entire Purdue series. It had been a couple weeks since he had been out there in live game action, and now he was able to go through that against Rutgers. They win the game. They get a full day and change, a few extra hours beyond that to rest. So you would think the adrenaline would be pumping, knowing Bryce is the competitor that he is. You can imagine any potential aches that are there are going to be disappearing under the lights in front of the crowd with the cameras on him. So I would expect, again, like he's had a tendency, probably more than any other Nebraska player offensively over the years, on this team at least, he's had a tendency to rise up in big spots and come through when Nebraska really needs him to. And tonight kind of feels like one of those nights, and we'll see if that trend is able to continue.
Evan, Will Bolt last night after the game said that it was really important to get that 3-run shot in the first inning. He got the crowd into it, and they really stayed behind the team all night long following that, all afternoon long, I should say. And I want to get your take on how important it is that Nebraska has something go right early with the large crowd expected. Do you think something needs to go right early to get the crowd into it, or is that crowd going to be something that can take you through the game no matter what happens, being on the team side, giving them an advantage? Or do you think something's got to go right early?
I mean, it certainly helps, right? I mean, there's no doubt. If you start fast and you're on the other side, that can kind of be a little bit deflating or intimidating, maybe, if you're Maryland. Kind of the two benchmarks that have been true of Nebraska this year are, one, when they hold their opponents to fewer than 6 runs, they win almost all their games. Now, I think that's a tall task tonight against what Maryland is able to do. But the other thing that they're able to do is when they have a lead in those middle to late innings, they're almost always able to hold on. So I think that's something else I would point to, and that's with the way that they feel like they've constructed their roster, is if you can grab that early lead, you're able to offensively take a few more chances in terms of hitting and running, stolen bases, things like that, that have gotten opponents on their heels, and that allows you to be a little bit more, I suppose, liberal with how you use your pitching. So I think that part's key as well. And so we'll see how it shakes out, but there's no doubt if you start fast, that confidence can balloon, that bleeds into how you play offensively, how you pitch defensively, and maybe puts a little bit of doubt on the other side that, this is more of an even game than what the seeds may indicate.
Evan, a thought from you on Nick Dean. What does he bring to the mound tonight? I assume that's who Maryland's going with.
Yeah, he's been one of their weekend guys all year. It does look like he's going to be the starter. One of the more veteran pitchers on their roster. He's been there for a couple years. He's actually one of those guys who statistically has had better seasons than he's having this year. And again, we talk about Maryland's small ballpark. I think some of that is affecting the ERA side of things for Maryland. So maybe their pitching is actually a little bit better. If their offense is maybe not quite, if their offensive numbers are inflated, then I think maybe that's also the case for Maryland's pitching. So, he's had, I think, an up and down season. But again, like Maryland has a rested bullpen. I think, you're in a spot where you're trying to play for an off day on Friday and 2 chances at Saturday. So if he's struggling, in the second, third inning, I imagine Rob Vaughn, their coach, would not have any qualms about going to the bullpen and finding somebody who can get outs and move you closer to that prize. So he's the guy that they want. He's a veteran. He's been in some big games, pitched in regionals before, but maybe not in front of crowds like this before, especially hostile ones. So we'll see how that shakes out. But, just in terms of his track record, I think he's had some ups, he's had some downs, and it's kind of hard to predict how it'll go tonight. It should be fun.
Evan, before we get you out of here, last hour we heard a story from Will Compton on it was Richie Incognito going and beating up an entire frat house for one of his teammates. And I want to know, I'm not sure if you guys had any or overlap during your time in college, you and Richie, but do you have any good Richie Incognito stories?
Oh boy. You know, he was there when I was there. I was with the college paper at the time, and I do remember he was one of those few guys, like when you interviewed him, you had no idea what to expect. Like and back then, like you would talk to guys right as they were coming off the practice field, and sometimes you could grab them and just see if they would talk. And, you know, he was one of those guys when he was coming off, like he still kind of had that wild look in his eye a little bit. And you're just like, you know, I'm not really sure if he's hearing me in this moment or if he's going to stop. And so, you know, you give him, you maybe yell out once, and if he doesn't respond, you let him pass by. That's not a guy you want to follow off the field. But I believe when he did talk, he was always, colorful. He was a character, certainly. And so you got to appreciate that about anybody.
He had that crazy look in his eye. I laugh about that. That's pretty good. Evan Bland, Omaha World Herald with us at Evan Bland, OWH. Follow his work. Great stuff on Nebraska baseball, Husker football, Omaha.com. Evan, thanks for giving us some time here before first pitch up in Omaha, bud. Appreciate you.
Yeah, appreciate you guys. Thanks.
There he is, Evan Bland with us on Hail Varsity Radio. We're down here at Rosie's. You're invited out. Get here for a watch party. Nebraska baseball against those Terrapins. Fear the Turtle. Maybe, maybe not. We'll see. But the Big Red Army is in full swarm down in the old market, getting ready for a trip into Charles Schwab. How are things working in Boulder? How much Nebraska is going to be in Colorado September 9th? We'll check in Gary Barnett next on Hail Varsity.
Hail Varsity is a must-have for true Husker fans. Get a monthly magazine that'll make checking the mail fun again. Daily analysis, the breaking news, including the inside scoop on recruiting on HailVarsity.com. And every June, that's right, every June, you'll get the Nebraska Football Yearbook, a season preview completely dedicated to Nebraska football. That's as comprehensive as national previews. Remember, get to HailVarsity.com.
Hail Varsity Club in La Vista is the perfect place to go for lunch every day. Dine in at the club and get our express lunch special for just $10. It's the all-beef Hail Varsity burger, fries, and a fountain drink delivered to your table in under 15 minutes. Hail Varsity Club in La Vista for lunch every day. And the perfect spot to watch all the big games. Reserve your table today and check out the events we've got coming up at HailVarsityClub.com. In La Vista, right next to Cabela's. Hail Varsity Club.
I can't wait for what's next. Even with higher stroke risk due to atrial fibrillation, an irregular heartbeat not caused by a heart valve problem. Eliquis, the Pixaban tablets, reduces stroke risk. It's the #1 cardiologist-prescribed blood thinner.
Don't stop taking prescription Eliquis without talking to your doctor, as this may increase your risk of stroke. Eliquis can cause serious and, in rare cases, fatal bleeding. Don't take Eliquis if you have an artificial heart valve, abnormal bleeding, or have antiphospholipid syndrome. While taking, you may bruise more easily or take longer for bleeding to stop. A spinal injection while on Eliquis increases risk of blood clots, which may cause paralysis, the inability to move. Get medical help right away for unexpected bleeding or unusual bruising, or if you have tingling, numbness, or muscle weakness. It may increase your bleeding risk if you take medicines such as aspirin products, NSAIDs, SSRIs, SNRIs, and blood thinners. Tell your doctor about all planned medical or dental procedures. Learn more at Eliquis.com or call 1-855-ELIQUIS.
Dazzling decal on Daisy's Donuts window. Bold banner at Barry's Barbershop. Prominent poster at Penny's on Park Place.
This is your sign. Well, signs. To try Staples and see the difference. Get $15 off signs, banners, and posters when you spend $75 or more.
From Staples, and I couldn't miss it.
End 6/17. Visit staplesconnect.com/printbig for details.
Listen to this station anytime, anywhere on Odyssey. Odyssey is your new audio home for all the music, news, sports, and podcasts that matter to you. Odyssey. That's AUDACY.
It's spring in Nebraska, so it's time to talk about your garden, lawn, and landscaping. Listen Saturday mornings for In the Garden.
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Back into it at Hail Varsity Radio. We're down here at Rosie's 10th and P Road Show ahead of Nebraska baseball. They get ready for the showdown with top seed Maryland. We welcome in the Hall of Fame coach, Gary Barnett, Colorado, Northwestern Missouri. Coach, you're going to pull my leg and tell me there's been a lot of smoke in Boulder this week.
Yeah. This comes from the fires in Canada, however. And there's always smoke in Boulder, but this one's different. So, yeah, I got these doggone allergies. And I don't know. I didn't have them. I guess it's called adult allergies or something. But did you guys get any of that smoke?
Oh, man, I'm walking out last week. Maybe even, I think it's a blur, baseball season. But I walk out and it's hazy and there's cottonwood debris. And we got plenty of the smoke from Canada as well. And it was no good. We had advisories Monday and Tuesday, I believe, but things cleared off by noon. But it's been everywhere. It's not good.
Well, we had a big thunderstorm yesterday that came through and just sort of cleared it out. And in fact, as I sit here in my office, I can look across the fairway up to the mountains and see the Whitecaps today. I couldn't see them for 2 days, so I couldn't see the mountains. So it's cleared out now, and hopefully a nice summer coming up.
We get double teamed from southern Kansas and Oklahoma, and then now it's the nation of Canada blowing smoke towards us. So how did we celebrate our birthday or your birthday? Did you hammer home some birdies?
Chris, it was, let's see, we got up and got on a plane and we flew to Colorado and we went to a band concert and watched some Ted Lasso. I think that was about it.
Good. I have not made it through final season 3 of Lasso. Have you completed it?
You know what? They just broke out the 11th episode last night, and we didn't get to watch it. We tried to, but it kept kicking us back to an earlier one. So, but it is there, and season 3 is pretty good. It's a little bizarre, but pretty good.
Well put. Well put. Gary Barnett's with us, Hail Varsity Radio. So I got to ask you here about the old mile high prices that are going on in Boulder. Coach, you had single ticket sales open up yesterday, and I think Husker Nation tried to find their way in for September 9th. I think the cheapest ticket was $400. I think the average mortgage payment in Nebraska is just over $1,400, near $1,500. You'll need more than that for 4 seats to see Dion in Nebraska.
Ain't capitalism great, Chris? I mean, we haven't won a game. All the bettors are putting us at 3.5. We're ranked 103, and we can get that kind of money for a ticket. And it's like a Taylor Swift concert. It's a celebrity status of Deion Sanders is what's driving these tickets up. And, if he were going to play, that'd be one thing, but he's just going to stand on the sideline, sometimes on a little scooter. And we're going to see a bunch of guys who've all come from someplace else, most of them colleges we can't even pronounce. And people are going to pay $500 to go see that. So pretty amazing.
It's wild, but I mean, you've been a part of the Nebraska-Colorado rivalry for a lot of years. Do you ever remember it being this expensive?
Well, we could never get a ticket like that unless it was a Nebraska person. I mean, we could never put a price on a ticket like that, except to the Nebraska people. They're the only ones who would pay it. Coloradoans would never pay that money to go to Nebraska or go here. So I've been a part of it, never seen anything like it. But you know, we didn't have a celebrity coach on either side. I mean, Dr. Com sort of became a local celebrity, and Max sort of became a local celebrity, but nothing to the extent that Deion Sanders is.
What do you think of this? I mean, it's great. I'm excited. I'm always excited when Nebraska-Colorado plays to, the home and away. I mean, you and I both want this every year, but I think this is great. My question to you is, where does it get slotted TV wise? Because you've got a bunch of other really big time national games. Do you think 10 a.m. local time's a reality, or do you think they might do Pac-12 after dark? Any thought on kickoff time?
No, we've got a big noon start on the first one with TCU, and I wouldn't doubt to see it be a Big Ten start or a big noon start against TCU and a big noon start against Nebraska. I wouldn't doubt it, but I don't know if they'd do two in a row. I sort of thought we would get game day for the first game against TCU because there really are not any big highlighted games that week, where the second week when we play Nebraska, there is. So I'm thinking less and less about game day, but it's not out of the realm of possibility. A lot of that might have to do with the opening game, but I think they've got to make their dates before that. So, it'll be a primetime game, no question about it, no pun intended. But it'll be a game in which everybody can watch and at a time that everybody can watch.
Yeah, I was for sure that'd be a night game, but I didn't look at the rest of the schedule, and that's Texas, Alabama, and Utah and Baylor. So a lot of good choices, but prime time, again, no pun intended. Nebraska-Colorado will be front and center. What's your reaction to some of the blowback or feedback from some of the Big Ten schools with this whole TV contract fiasco that don't want to be playing November night games?
Well, don't take the money. I mean, that's what's going on. I mean, you're getting money to play then, and you're getting big money to play. And so I'd tether my blowback a little bit. And, they're paying you to play those games. And, the only thing it's going to maybe have an effect on is recruiting, because people are watching you play in the snow. But whatever that number is, 105 up to 105 million per year per team, they get to call their shots as to when you play. And I think that's just, like I said, ain't capitalism great?
Did you love night games? Did you have a preference? Did it matter? I mean, you were locked in, I know, but man, there's a lot of memorable night moments for Nebraska fans, and of course, Colorado, as you guys were winning ball games.
I actually preferred the earlier starts, and I think players do too. Mostly because you don't have that long wait trying to figure out what to do. You can get to the game, you can play the game, and when the game's over, I could go home and watch somebody else sweat for 4 or 5 hours. And, you get to have a little bit of a Saturday life around college football. You get to go watch other people. And you can't watch them before your game and have the same sort of attitude towards it. So I like the earlier games. We didn't care really, but the night games were harder to manage and harder to recover from. Your Sundays after a late night Saturday game they're wasted. And if you play a early game, then you got a chance to get a lot of work done on Sunday. So But you don't get your choice. Back in the day, when we didn't have so many TV games, you got your choice. But you don't have your choice now, and you just live with it. So if you're worried about that, buddy, you're thinking about the wrong things.
Well, there are some Big Ten schools that are concerned. Gary Barnett with us, Hail Varsity Radio. What do you think of the unfinished business? Yeah, you have Commissioner Warren that's off to the Bears, coach, and it looks like Coach the new Commissioner Petiti is in to try and fix some things. And sounds like a conference title game was given away without being able to be given away. And Fox wants some payback financially.
Yeah, well, the devil's in the details, and everybody was so happy with the amount of money they were going to get that they probably didn't pay close attention to that. And you got to blame the ADs for that, because they're the ones who didn't take care of the details to make sure that wouldn't happen. So, that falls squarely on the athletic directors in the Big Ten, I think.
Coach, a thought on what's next for USC? Mike Bone out at USC as he made a hire when he was at Cincy to get Fickell. He was able to get Lincoln Riley at USC, but now they've parted ways. I know he was at Colorado for a time, wasn't he?
Yes, he was. He was able to hire Dan Hawkins after me.
Gotcha.
So I don't know which side of the ledger you want to put that one on. But I obviously don't have a great deal of love for Mike Bone, but thing to watch, and the two moves that he did make in Fickell, and even though Lincoln Riley made that move himself, people don't really know that story, but Mike had called Lincoln, and Lincoln had turned him down, and then in the middle of the night, on a Sunday night, Lincoln calls him and says, something happened up there, and said, you know what? You got an FC booster to offer him $90 million. So he says, Mike, I'm going to be your coach. And so it was a matter of somebody on the outside doing the work, and Lincoln calling Mike back up. But you got to give him credit for those two, because he at least made the attempt.
That Lincoln Riley story, probably the first time it's been uttered here publicly, and that is impressive, where somebody from Hollywood just says, yeah, I got $90 million for you. What do you think? I know you're not happy about going to the SEC. Come on to the Pac-12. So is Lincoln ticked he's going to the Big Ten?
I don't think he knew that one was in the works.
No, I don't either.
So, yeah, he's got a lot of different patches to put on those jerseys they wear.
I would think so.
But, so I don't know what they'll do out there, but it's in a pretty good spot right now, at least publicly, and we'll see what happens internally.
Gary Barnett with us, Hail Varsity Radio. A few more minutes with Coach on the other side. So that's how the Lincoln Riley hire went down. A booster with $90 million made the phone call. More with Coach. You're invited down. We're here at Rosie's, downtown Rosie's, 10th and P with Hail Varsity.
Hi, this is Michael Dixon, voice of the Lincoln Self Dogs. Join me for the play-by-play action this season on KFOR FM 101.5, 1240 AM, and online at KFORnow.com.
Deb, the spa lady, back with us here, Home Innovation Spas. Deb, a holiday weekend. How we doing?
All right. We are ready for the big holiday weekend. We've been busy this week delivering lots and lots of spas so people can enjoy those with their families this weekend. But we do have spas in stock, which is a nice thing. You can come in, pick one out. We can get it delivered in just a matter of days. So come in, take a look at what we have. We have everything from the little ones to the big swim spas, and we can make it so simple, so easy. You just need to come in and see us.
Deb, how can folks do that? Couple of locations for folks to find you.
Right. We're at 20th and Highway 2 in Lincoln, 138th and Industrial up in Omaha, you can go to our website. That's spasonline.com.
Be sure to stop by and see Deb, the spa lady, today with Home Innovation Spas. Deb, thanks.
Thank you.
Capital Arborist is your tree service in Lincoln with the experience and expertise to handle all your arboreal needs. More than just tree trimming, Capital Arborist is a member of the Nebraska Arborist Association. Call 402-466-0160 or capitalarborist.com for a free estimate.
Nebraskans love the great outdoors. Hi, I'm Jeff.
And I'm Hershey. We bring you the inside scoop with pros from the Nebraska Game and Park
on Outdoor Nebraska every Saturday morning at 9:45 here on KFOR 1240 AM
and 101.5 FM.
If you're hiring, it can feel like you're trying to find a needle in a haystack. You can hope the right person comes along, or you can just use ZipRecruiter. And now you can try it for free at ZipRecruiter.com/radio. In fact, ZipRecruiter has helped a lot of business owners find their needle in a haystack, like Marco, president of operations at Telly Tires and Auto Centers. Because Telly Tires has grown a lot in the last few years, Marco needed to hire everyone from a receptionist to a store manager to a head mechanic.
ZipRecruiter helps me find all the right people, even the most difficult jobs to fill. ZipRecruiter helps me keep my business running.
Take it from Marco and millions of other businesses who've used ZipRecruiter. ZipRecruiter can help you find the needle in the haystack.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free. That's right, free at ZipRecruiter.com/radio. That's ZipRecruiter.com/RADIO. ZipRecruiter.com/radio. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire.
Coming up on a Friday on the Morning Hookup. From 10 to 11. Dr. Dave.
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Back with you from Rosie's downtown Lincoln, 10th and P, head of Nebraska, Maryland. The watch party follows us here. More with Gary Barnett as we're talking USC, their administrative issues at AD, and also some Husker football with Danny Kaelin. What is that job? They've just been a mess administratively. They've been through a lot of people.
They've been through a lot of people. And I frankly don't know the inside of that university and the stories or whatever the problems are. Just I know from the outside, I know Mike wasn't the first choice. I think they went through 3 or 4 different offers before Mike got the chance to go there. And so I don't know. It's got to be a lot to it that we don't know about. And I'm sure the politics of it and being in L.A. and not being able to control your donors, probably all that plays in there. And somebody wanting to call the shots. So I'm sure that whoever ponied up the check for $90 million was going to have a say in stuff. And or at least he thought he was, or she. So I'm sure all that stuff's involved, and it's sort of like making sausage. You don't want to see it. And I think that's probably what happens in administrations in schools like that.
Coach, Nebraska able to flip a Missouri commit, Danny Kaelin, talented quarterback from Bellevue West in Omaha. Last Monday, Raiola goes to Georgia. By Saturday high noon, Kaelin is a Husker, and he just got an invite to the Elite 11 camp. And Coach, there's a lot of really good training that's been going on in Lincoln and in Omaha and around the state. Nebraska's profile's really raised with the in-state talent, not just from national recruitments, but also the quarterback position. Is that something that you have seen grow just around the country, where some areas that may not have been hot spots for, say, quarterbacks, they turn into one just through some training, some off-season work by a trainer in a group of high schools?
I think it's hit or miss, Chris. You can have those years. I remember one year at Colorado, we had 15 or 17 really top quality candidates, not in quarterbacks, but players. And, we didn't see it afterwards, and we hadn't seen it before. So it just sort of comes and goes. It goes, the 7-on-7 programs around the country and leagues has really enhanced, one, the ability to see other quarterbacks, but two, for quarterbacks to develop. So I think it's a combination of a lot of things.
We'll let you go on this. Gary Barnett with this holiday weekend. I know there's golf in store. What's going on the grill? Do you have, I know you're a rib guy, but what else do you put on the grill if there's the holiday get-together? Are you doing steak, chicken, pork chops? I mean, what's the order here? What's the preference?
Chris, this is a to be determined
Gotcha.
because there's not a lot of planning that goes into our family get-togethers. So I'm probably going to come up with an answer Sunday morning or Monday morning. So I can't tell you. I'll shoot you a picture of whatever it is.
Okay. Well, that'd be good. We're doing baseball all weekend. So that's.
Yeah, I've got 2 baseball games on Sunday, or Saturday and 2 on Sunday. So we're doing the same thing.
You're still doing ribs though, right? I mean, that's in ink.
I don't know whether we're doing ribs or not. I'm like I said, it's to be determined.
Man, you sound bummed out.
Need 16 hours to get ready for those ribs, so I'm good.
Okay, there he is, Gary Barnett. Coach, enjoy your holiday weekend. Thanks for a few minutes.
Yeah, Chris, great being with you.
There you have it, a 16-hour smoke needed for the Gary Barnett ribs. And he was complaining about the smoke in Boulder, but he clarified it's a Canadian smoke. It isn't Boulder smoke.
Well, then I'm wondering with that 16 hours, if that's fully smoke time, I wonder if he's got some sort of special marinade that he uses on the ribs. I've seen some people use some interesting stuff, Dr. Pepper. I have seen some people use Hawaiian Punch.
Never tried that. He sent us a picture last summer. Remember that?
Yeah.
So.
Well, now I think the dry marinade to me is crucial on most of your meats. At least get some salt and some of your seasonings on. Let it sit for at least 30 minutes before you grill. That's important. The longer you let it sit, probably the better. That's very important with most meats. And a wet marinade on ribs, I've heard good things about, especially if it's got some sweetness to it. And then you can add a little more saltiness and kick with your rub.
I just do dry rub, do the yellow mustard, and then dry rub it. And then maybe touch a little sauce on it, but not a ton. Brennan weighs in. 3, 2, 1. I'll throw the ribs on naked. I'll throw them in foil, and then I'll finish them in the oven. But I'll smoke them for about 3.5, 4 hours.
No, that's the key. Just a little bit of sauce to get them sticky. I think what you laid out is there is key. And I tried it. I did an experiment last fall. I did one set of ribs that did not have the mustard binder and one set that did have the mustard binder. And I for years, I've been sold on the mustard binder. The non-mustard binder did not lead to as good a crust, but it still led to equally good tasting ribs. And I actually thought it took the sauce better. So if you are doing unsauced ribs, highly recommend the mustard, especially I like a spicy mustard on there. But if you are planning on saucing the ribs, I don't think you're going to be missing out on anything if you don't do the mustard binder, because it draws some of that moisture out of the ribs, the salt does, and it creates its own bark of sorts on the outside that then takes to sauce very well. So that was my experiment. I don't think there's a wrong way to do it with the yellow mustard or not, but I found if you want dry ribs, better to have the sauce. If you're going to sauce them, it really doesn't matter if you have that mustard on there or not.
I'm at the point right now where I may go short ribs over baby back ribs.
I'd agree with that.
Pretty good. But look at us. Look at us already getting to the weekend.
Well, you're hitting me on the tail end of my diet. We've laid this out before. The fitness challenge with my roommates, we're on the tail end of it. I am dying for some smoked meats. I might even smoke up a pork butt for Memorial Day if I'm feeling a little out there.
I have not heard of Steven.
Yes, he is the best. He's on America's Test Kitchen, I believe.
Well, yeah, that's what Nick's telling us here in the stream. Can always watch the show Hail Varsity YouTube channel. I've not done shrimp. The shrimp, Doug Duda popped by a little bit ago, and we were in Indianapolis for media days, and we went to St. Elmo's. And everyone raves about St. Elmo's, but it is for real with their cocktail sauce. I mean, it is nuclear. It punches you in the face 6 times, but you want more. It is that spicy.
No, and with Steven, as Nick laid out, he's actually like, my dad had his barbecue Bible cookbook growing up. So that's like actually me and my dad learned a lot of barbecuing from from him. PBS All-Star is a great way of putting it.
That's the way to do it.
He's a good one.
We will wind down a Thursday road show. We're here at Rosie's downtown Lincoln. Thank you, Nick. No cocktail sauce for these shrimp.
Schmidt, before we get out of here, this segment, we do have an update coming on Twitter from Evan Bland. The first pitch for Nebraska and Maryland has been set at 6:43 p.m., assuming that rain does not come and mess up the plans. But 6:43 between Nebraska and Maryland, first pitch.
Our friends in Omaha at 590 will have that coverage for you. And, of course, pregame with the network. So get locked in there. Watch party here at Rosie's, Nebraska, Maryland. We'll wind down hour 2 with Hail Varsity.
Troy, we made it. We got through winter, second winter, full spring, the pollinating, and now we've finally come to summer.
Don't say the S word.
What, summer?
Stop! You'll spook it away.
Spook summer.
Please!
No way all this happened just because I said summer. Okay, I believe you.
But that's why RVs are so great. You can keep camping through all that ugly early season weather.
That's big. You only get so many camping days with your kids each year.
And Bish's RV makes sure you don't miss a minute of camping season.
It's also why we're throwing a massive Memorial Day sale right now.
We've got bunkhouse travel trailers as low as $199 per month OAC.
All 2022s are reduced to move with no reasonable offer refused.
90 days, no payments, OAC for 3 months of all play and no pay.
And more than max trade-in value on your current RV. Take that, summer. I'm sorry, just checking.
Don't miss a minute of camping season. Come to the Memorial Day sale at Bish's RV in Lincoln on Highway 77 and Saltillo Road. Bish's RV, where memories begin.
I'm here with John Leffler, the Nebraska Safety Council, taking a defensive driving course to show how important safety is to us. Well, and the court order.
Todd Spidell, body shop owner, terrible driver. Okay, turn left at the light.
Right.
No, left.
Right, left.
Slow down.
Sorry, I didn't see the crosswalk. At Spidell Body Works, we care about your safety, and that's why we work hard to make sure that your vehicle is fixed right so you...
Now let's merge left into the straight lane.
Okay.
Oh, brother, this is not good.
And guess who's also all about safety? Yep, the Nebraska Safety Council. They offer lots of driver education for you or your teenage drivers to keep them safe.
Okay, now pull over and make an emergency stop. I said pull over and make an emergency stop.
Oh, well, back to Spidell.
Accidents happen, even to good drivers. If it happens to you, call Spidell Body Works and let us take the ball from claim to completion. We won't try to sell you a car, change your oil, or paint your car for $2.99. But if you want your vehicle fixed right, Spidell Body Works is your best decision after a collision.
Hi, this is Jason Ball, president of the Lincoln Chamber of Commerce. Lincoln recently had the privilege to host the Nebraska Economic Developers Association 2023 annual conference, an organization celebrating its 50th anniversary. This event brought 300 of the state's top economic development professionals to Lincoln to talk about how best to grow economies and communities across the state. Conference participants had the opportunity to tour Lincoln businesses, learn how to expand workforce efforts, and build networks for collaboration. Economic development is a team sport. Leadership from the State Department of Economic Development is important to position Nebraska as a place for business growth, and it is local economic development professionals that foster the relationships that get projects done. Local offices, like your Lincoln Partnership for Economic Development, are investing more than
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Rosie's downtown, 10th and P, Schmidt, Elijah Herbel. It's Hail Varsity. We're presented by Currency. For all your equipment financing needs, go Currency. Just a ton of energy here down at Rosie's. So many folks are out celebrating, enjoying, kicking off last day of school. So thanks for coming down and spending an exciting amount of time with friends and loved ones. Tomorrow we are back on the road. I'm at Millard South. It's where I'm going to be posted up for baseball. Elijah Herbel. Elijah, you got some graduation stuff to get rocking, don't you?
Oh, I got plenty coming up this week. I got to earn my 3-day weekend. So Coming up immediately following the show, I'm headed off to my sister's grad party as she graduates from Lincoln Southeast High School. I'll throw it in now. Go Knights. I'll say it now. I won't say it ever again. Go Knights, though. Congrats to my sister Lily as she graduates high school, headed off to UNL next fall. So we're pretty excited for her. Going to go out and check out her grad party this evening, and I'm sure I'm going to be more of the muscle for cleaning it all up, but that's okay. That's what brothers are for. And then tomorrow, immediately after the show, I'm headed out to a wedding as my buddy Jackson's getting married. So congratulations are in order to him and his lovely wife, or soon to be lovely wife, as I'm going to go do that. And then bright and early for the Saturday morning show, we are earning our weekend, Schmidt, and hopefully we'll be talking about a deep Husker run over the next couple of days, in addition to all this other stuff. That'd make it a little more enjoyable, being scattered out and about, doing all sorts of things, not having enough time to do it before your weekend. Makes it a little more manageable whenever the Husker baseball team makes a deep run to talk about.
That'd be all good. A deep run, a dry weekend when you fire the grill up, for sure. And time and remembrance, of course. Podcast is where you can get caught up with us on Hail Varsity, Spotify, iTunes, Google Play for the audio. And what we do is we'll break it down different segments, or the whole show can just take all 90 minutes that way if you want. And you want the video portion, easy enough. Can just jump on Hail Varsity YouTube, the Facebook and Twitter feed as well. Give Hail Varsity Radio a follow at HVarsity Radio. Always great stuff in the morning with Damon Benning and Andrew Rogers. We'll be sure to get you home 4 to 6 and archive stuff, some good stuff this week with Rex Burkhead and, of course, Bellevue West head coach, Coach Huffman. Pretty awesome about Danny Kaelin being selected as an Elite 11 quarterback. So he'll be at the Elite 11 along with Dylan Raiola. That'll be pretty fascinating to watch this summer.
And if you missed that interview with Coach Huffman, you can again always find it in podcast form, or you can hear it again on Monday afternoon, Memorial Day edition. We'll have a best of Hail Varsity Radio for our listeners in Omaha. 5:90 a.m. is where you can find the best of show for Hail Varsity Radio Monday from 4 to 6. We'll have Michael Huffman. We'll have Ron Brown. We'll have some of the guys from the original Pipeline, all of that coming your way on Mondays. If you want to check it out, you can do that. As for me, Schmidt, I think Sunday night, me and some buddies are talking about taking a camping trip, taking the 10 out to the woods. So open invite to you.
Yes. No, I don't want to go camping, Elijah. No, I do not want to go camping.
Maybe you've had a change of heart. I thought I'd throw it out there.
No, I appreciate the offer. We'll be back at you tomorrow. Millard South, our venue tomorrow. Big hug to Rosie's downtown for having us out. And it is wild down here, folks, gearing up for Nebraska-Maryland. Talk to you tomorrow at 4 with Hail Varsity, presented by Currency.